I'm Gavin Cruz with Math Media Team with 20 Minutes with the Pro. We are here with Kaiti Blake, a meteorologist at KSAT 12. How are you doing this morning, Kaiti?
Good morning. Doing really good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for asking. So, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself to get us started here?
Yeah, so I'm Kaiti. I'm a meteorologist at KSAT 12, the ABC affiliate here in San Antonio. So my big job is to forecast this sometimes crazy Texas weather. Right now it's just hot, but it can be a little crazy here in South Texas. I really love the science behind meteorology. That's the big driver of why I wanted to be a meteorologist, and feel really fortunate to be in such a great place like San Antonio. Texas is my home state, so really happy to be in Texas. Really happy to be at KSAT, great station, and I've thoroughly enjoyed my time there so far. I grew up in Houston, so native Texan, went to college in Texas as well, and currently am engaged, set to be married at the end of the year. So that's been fun, trying to do that during a pandemic. And I am a mom to a 18-pound cat. So
Your cat's 18 pounds.
Yes. Sadly for me, that was my interesting fact about myself, is that my cat is 18 pounds. But he may make an appearance. I'm at my home today.
That's exciting. What kind of cat is he?
He's just your standard like American short hair cat. When I was my first job in TV, I was living in Abilene, and so I was like kind of all by myself and kind of lonely. And so I adopted him from an animal shelter there. And so he was just a kind of a raggedy little kitten, really skinny and little. And now he's maybe a little too far on the other end, but he's quite a character. He's pretty popular on my Instagram. So if you go check out Instagram, you may see him make some appearances every now and then.
And how old is he?
He just turned 4, so he's got a lot of years left.
Oh, what's his name?
Theo.
Theo?
Theo the cat. Yes.
That's a cute name.
I don't know where he is. I think he's probably sleeping. That's all they do is sleep, right?
Would you mind explaining to us what your job is and what exactly you do?
Yeah, no problem. So a lot of folks, have probably seen the meteorologist on TV or the person that is presenting the weather forecast on the newscast. But it goes way beyond just those 30 minutes or an hour that the newscast is. Our job is a lot more involved than that. So we'll get there. I'll get to the station a couple hours before our newscast starts, because I've got to make the weather forecast itself, which, depending on what's going on, can take up to an hour, sometimes even a little bit more, just between looking at all the different data and maps. So I've got to make a good, accurate forecast, and then I've got to make the graphics that you see on TV during the newscast. So some of those graphics populate themselves, but some of them we have to make and edit ourselves. And again, kind of depending on what's going on, it can be pretty simple or it can be pretty complex. So we've got that goes on before the newscast, and we have the newscast itself, which range, the ones that I work range anywhere from a half hour to a full hour. So you've got to have content that can fill, your forecast hits during those newscast times. And then even after the newscast is over, we don't just, walk out the door and leave for the day. We've got to make sure that things on our website are updated, things on our mobile app is updated. Those are, huge now. Everybody's online. Everybody has a phone that has apps. And we also update and share forecast information via social media. So there's kind of the before, the during, what people see on TV, and then the after, kind of the supplemental stuff that goes, again, on our website and to our app. So.
Okay, so that's a typical day in your job or at work?
Yeah, I work Wednesday through Friday, and then I work our weekend evening newscast. So my week is kind of Wednesday through Sunday, which is a little different. But yeah, that's my typical day. Now, if we have severe weather, I may have to come in a bit earlier than normal and then stay later than normal. That has happened many a time, and it will happen many more times, and that's just something you kind of have to be flexible with. But yeah, I'd say that's a typical day. I'm usually at work for about 10 hours a day. Yeah.
10 hours. That's a long time.
Yeah, we have some of our newscasts that are a bit spread out, one at 5 and one at 10 p.m. So we've got kind of a big break there. Then that 10 p.m. is an hour. So I'm not done technically until 11 o'clock. And then if there's, like I said, severe weather or something like that, I may have to stay even beyond that. But it's usually about 10 hours. And the thing about weather is that, and news is kind of the same way, like weather never stops. You know, when I leave for the day, the weather is still going to do its thing. So it can sometimes feel like a 24/7 job just because you want to keep people updated. But we have a big team at KSAT. There are 5 of us. So we've got a lot of folks that can keep an eye on things and keep things updated. So that's really nice.
Okay. How long have you been in this current position?
I've been here at KSAT for about 3.5 years.
3.5 years?
Yeah, it'll be 4 in April. Yes.
Do you like working there? Do you like your job?
Oh yeah, I love it a lot. Like I said, I feel really fortunate to be at KSAT because it's a great station. It's so well respected here in San Antonio. And we've got a lot of people at KSAT that have been with the station for a long time. And that's not necessarily common in the news industry. A lot of people, and this was kind of true of me when I first started. I went from a part-time job I had during college, working on air, to then my first job out of school, which was in a much smaller TV market, Abilene. And so then I was kind of ready to move up, and that's when I came to San Antonio. And, you know, a lot of people have dreams and aspirations of going to really big TV markets like a Dallas or New York or LA, something like that. And that's great. But what I find really unique about KSAT is we've got a lot of people here that have gotten here and stayed here. And I think that's a testament to what a great station it is to be at. The people are wonderful. And when people get here, they don't want to leave. They want to stay, which is pretty unique to find in the news industry. So really enjoy it. We have a great weather team. My fellow meteorologists, there's 4 more, are great people to work with and learn from. And so, yeah, very, very pleased to be here. And our management, so my bosses, really believe in us and are willing to support us in whatever we want to do. If we have a new creative idea, they really encourage us to go for that. And that's also not necessarily common. So that's something that I'm really, really thankful for and appreciate. So.
And you like the people you work around? Do you like your coworkers?
Yes, I love my coworkers. And in this period of COVID, I don't get to see all of them as much as I used to. And that's kind of a bummer. But we're all kind of social creatures, and I really miss my coworkers. A lot of them are fully from home. People that I would see every day now are fully working from home, and I haven't gotten to see them in, months, since like March or April. So really do love my coworkers. The cool thing about my fellow meteorologists is that we all kind of have something that the others can learn from, right? It's always good to be able to learn from people. And so the people that I really work with on a daily basis, so my fellow weather team members are, they've all worked in different places across the country. And so they all bring a different kind of perspective and a different knowledge about different types of weather to the table. And so it's cool to be able to learn from them. And they're just genuinely nice people. So that's good too.
Okay. Does anyone else in your family work with KSAT or in the TV broadcasting sort of genre or job industry?
No, not a soul. So just me. My mom is in the healthcare field, and my dad is in IT. So I use computers a lot, but I'm not nearly the IT expert that he is. So nope, it's just me for now. I wasn't able to recruit any of my siblings to get in the news biz, so just me.
Does your dad ever help you with your computer or ever fix any problems you have?
Nah, he has a lot of questions about some of our apps and things like that. He does a lot of development and troubleshooting with mobile apps, and so he'll ask me questions sometimes. But we have a really great IT department at KSAT, so if I mess something up on my desktop at work, they're able to help me out pretty quickly.
So what made you realize this is the type of work you wanted to do?
Yeah, good question. And that's something that I think meteorologists get asked quite a bit. I really always did like weather. That's probably the cliche answer that you'll get from every meteorologist. But I was interested in weather, grew up in Houston, and so there were some hurricanes and tropical systems that came through the area as I was growing up, and that was always really fascinating to me. But when I went to college, I wasn't sure if I wanted to be a meteorologist on TV. I was fairly shy and didn't think that I kind of fit the bill for someone that could be on TV. And so when I went to college, I was really unsure about that. Because you can be a meteorologist and not be on TV. You can work for the National Weather Service. You can work for private companies. There's a lot of different ways you can still study the weather in a career. So when I went to college, I wasn't sure. And then I was able to get an internship over a summer at a TV station in Houston. And that kind of is what got my feet wet in the TV part of weather. And so that was my sophomore year of college. So I studied for a couple of years without knowing that I wanted to do the whole TV biz thing. But I really enjoy being able to still study the science of the weather, but then also communicate it to people. And that was a big plus for me in this career. So I think I probably knew for sure going into my junior year of college, so my third year of college.
So would you say weather fascinates you? As
weird as
that might sound, but does
it
fascinate
so cool. Even meteorologists that we talk about the weather every day, but there are still certain times that it is very fascinating, and you see something that you've never seen before, or you see a cool picture or video. And the way technology is now, and the way that, with Hurricane Laura that just made landfall, we've got people everywhere, right, with phones, and so they can be right there and see all these crazy things happening with this landfalling hurricane and share it to everybody. And that's something that we haven't always had. So there's always something that is really fascinating. And when you see something you haven't seen before, that's a really cool moment as well.
Severe weather, do you not per se like it, but
Sure.
is it interesting to you, tornadoes and hurricanes? Since being in Texas, that's really all we get.
Yeah, it is interesting, and I think what really, I guess I wouldn't say that I like severe weather, but it because I know some people don't like it, and that's a big motivator for us when it comes to severe weather. Is we really want to get that forecast right. We want to get every forecast right, but we really want to be able to tell people what's going on and what to expect when it comes to severe weather, because for some people it is really scary, and we want to be able to kind of walk them through that and let them know, that everything's going to kind of be okay. But just, meteorologically speaking, the things that are, really cool and like, ooh, ah, we still kind of nerd out over that stuff as well.
Have you ever experienced any type of severe weather?
I haven't. So I've never seen a tornado with my own eyes. See, I've, seen it on pictures and video plenty of times, but I've never seen one with my own eyes. As I've been through when was that? There were some bad hailstorms. I want to say back in April or May. And I was working from home, so I was doing some social media stuff from home, and my colleagues were on air providing updates. And one of the hail cores went like right over our neighborhood. And that was one of the first times I had been under some like truly large hail. And that was kind of crazy. That was a sound that I hadn't heard before, and it broke some of our neighbors' windows. Thankfully, ours weren't broken, but that was kind of crazy. As far as tropical systems go, I've lived through a few in the Houston area, but none that caused really big issues for my family or for our neighborhood. Obviously, Harvey was very bad for a big portion of the Houston area. But I was working here at KSAT when Harvey happened. So been in a few storms. I'd like to see a tornado with my own eyes safely from a distance. So we'll see if that ever happens.
Well, while we're on the topic of severe weather, do you like any disaster movies? 2012, Twister, anything like that?
Good question. Love Twister. I always say my mom showed that to me at like a really impressionable age, or like let me watch it. I don't think she knew the effect it was going to have when she let me watch it. But love Twister, and I do think that's a big reason why I wanted to be a meteorologist as well. I was really fascinated with what was going on in that movie, even though some of it is not entirely scientifically accurate. It's really caught my attention. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. Personally, I love that movie. When I was younger, I had a DVD, and I have it on iTunes right now. But that's definitely one of my favorite movies.
It's a classic.
Yeah. If a student or someone young wanted to get into your line of work, what core elements would they be using from public education?
Yeah, so a big part of meteorology is, of course, going to be science, specifically physics. Which is maybe not something that you get into until like junior high school. But physics is a big part of meteorology because the atmosphere is pretty much it's a fluid. It's just waves, to put it pretty simply. And so a big part of meteorology is studying the physics of the fluid that is the atmosphere. There's also a ton of math involved in meteorology. I had to take all the way through Calculus 3, and then I had to take 2 differential equations courses in college, and those were prereqs or requirements for some of my meteorology courses. So the math is really big. Math and physics, I would say, are the 2 biggest things. But something that's also very important is English, reading and writing, because you've got to be able to reading, writing, and then communicating as well. You've got to be able to speak clearly for people, on air. But writing has become a big part of my job, especially over the past couple of years, because we have to provide information for our website and stuff like that. So I would say English is really important too.
What would you advise a student start doing now if they want to get in your position, being a meteorologist for KSAT 12?
KSAT 12.
Yeah, I always say start looking at weather information online. There are so many websites that you can look at that are free, that provide all the forecast models that I look at almost every day. So you can get on there and look at all these different characteristics of the atmosphere. There's temperature, of course, there's rain or precipitation, but there's also a ton of other variables that we have to look at when it comes to forecasting. And so there's a lot of good websites that are free that if you are kind of interested in the weather, you can just kind of click around and see what it looks like and get familiar with it. I'd also suggest reading some weather blogs. They don't necessarily have to be from here in San Antonio, from someone here in San Antonio. They can be anywhere. Read weather blogs, read what people are saying about the weather in their area, how they're forecasting it, and stuff like that. There's a ton of stuff online. There are podcasts. There's a podcast called Weather Brains that I started listening to when I was in graduate school, even before I had my first job. It's just all different types of meteorologists, and they just talk about weather stuff each week. So that's kind of cool. So I would just say, even if you don't know some of the specifics the different variables, just like dive into some info and start to get familiar with some of the language and stuff. And you can pick up on some things pretty quickly.
What are one or two things that you enjoy doing in your line of work?
Oh man. So I love when a forecast that I've worked really hard on and that was maybe a bit challenging, when it comes together and I can learn something from it, whether it goes totally the way I thought it was going to go or whether, we missed the mark in some respects. I love being able to learn something from a challenging forecast, because that's how you become a better scientist in this line of work. And I really also, I love being able to communicate to people what they can expect from the weather, and when we get feedback that it helps them. So like if it's severe weather or something like that, and we get some good feedback that people appreciated the alerts we sent out or the information we provided on air, or things like that, that's probably the most important thing, because we do this because we want people to be informed and safe. And so when we're able to know that happened, that's a big win.
So you talked about communication. Would you say communication is an important part of your job?
Yeah. Being able to communicate clearly with people through a camera lens is not necessarily always the easiest thing. There are nerves involved, and it does take a little while to get over that. But I found that when I'm most comfortable, that's when I best communicate to people what's going to happen with the weather. So, it's important verbally. Body language is important, but then also being able to communicate the forecast via text or writing on our digital platforms. That's important as well. So yeah, communication's big.
Okay. In regards to the workplace, what characteristics do you look for in a coworker?
That's a good question. I think the biggest thing for me would be someone that's willing to be a team player, and also someone that is fairly humble, because I think to be a good meteorologist, you've got to be a bit humble. You can't be too full of yourself, because I always say Mother Nature, will humble you before you know it. Like, you can think you know what's going to happen, all your forecast data tells you this, and then Mother Nature decides, nope, the opposite's going to happen. And it's very humbling, and you have to be willing to learn from what you missed in a forecast and take that with you, to the next one, and just try to do better. But yeah, and if you're not willing to take criticism, if you're not willing to, learn and grow, if you kind of come into it thinking you're the best and you never make mistakes, then it's really gonna probably be a pretty bumpy ride. So and that's what I love about my weather team. Everybody is very humble. Everyone's willing to take criticism and learn from a forecast that didn't go well, and try to do better the next time. So I think being humble is really important in this line of work, because we are human. We do make mistakes. I actually don't look forward to the day when we can make a perfect weather forecast, because I think there's something to be said, for letting Mother Nature do her thing. We're just trying to predict best we can what she's going to do, but she's the boss.
So mentally, you grow in this position, just learning about everything, and
Yeah. Oh yeah. I know much more now than I did when I started at my first job, and that was 5 years ago. So I've been at KSAT for about 3.5 years, but I started working in TV, 6 years ago. So I know much more now, because as you go through, whether it be a really bad storm or a hurricane or something like that, you learn how to better forecast from those types of events. So then you kind of just all put that in the back of your mind, take that with you, and use it going forward. So yeah, there's definitely a ton of opportunity to grow, and not just with the forecasting, but also with how I, present myself on air. I've gotten a lot more comfortable with being on TV. At first, it was really, really nerve-wracking, but now I've gotten a lot more comfortable, and so that has helped as well. So yeah, a ton of opportunity to grow.
What's the most surprising thing about your job that people may not know that you do?
I think people are always genuinely surprised to know that meteorologists don't read off of a teleprompter. So if you've ever been in a news studio, you see all the big cameras, and on the cameras are the teleprompters. And that's how our news anchors and reporters read their script, because they've got a ton of really specific information like names, dates, times, locations. And so they have to have all that put in before the newscast so that they can read that accurately. That would be a ton of stuff for them to remember. There's no way that they could do that. So they do read off of a teleprompter, but meteorologists don't. So they turn the teleprompter off when we're doing our weathercast. So we ad-lib everything, which basically just means we kind of come up with it as we go, which sounds harder than it is. You really kind of get the hang of it. But people, I think, are always surprised to know that we don't read off of a teleprompter.
Not having a teleprompter and all that, would you say that's helped your speech skills and communication skills and the way you talk off the back?
Yes, and there have definitely been some stumbling blocks because if you sometimes, even like kind of what I'm doing in this interview, you don't necessarily, the words don't always just like perfectly flow, right? And so sometimes I say or on air, and that's just because we're ad-libbing. And yeah, I think because sometimes people will ask, why do you say so much? And it's just because we're ad-libbing, trying to find the next thought. So there definitely have been some stumbling blocks, getting better with that. But just like anything else, I always say the more you do it, the more comfortable you get, and the better you become. But that's with any skill or occupation.
So obviously you're good at speaking off the back, but have you ever messed up live or anything like that? Or
yeah, there have been a couple of times where I was searching for the word and I just couldn't find the word. And I think that's happened once or twice, where I just kind of had to be like, and I just say, I'm sorry, I can't find that word I'm thinking of. And you just kind of laugh it off and move on. And it's not a big deal. I go back, and if I ever watch some of my forecasts where I feel like I messed up a little bit, when you go back and watch, it's never as bad as what you think, right? So you just kind of laugh it off and go with it. So we have a microphone pack and something that goes in our ear called an IFB. We have a little pack for that as well that we have to make sure is on us somehow. And I've had those fall off during the middle of one of my forecasts. So I just kind of had to back inch off of the screen out of the view of the camera and pick it up and put it back, and you just keep going. So most things some people won't even notice, and pretty much everything can be laughed off.
Well, that is all I have for you today, Kaiti. Thank you so much for your time and sharing a little insight on what you do and what your job is.
Absolutely. If anyone has any questions, it doesn't even have to be about weather. If you just got questions about college, different types of courses, internships, I've had numerous internships, so kind of feel like I know what I'm doing in that area. If you have questions about anything like that, or just need advice or something, feel free to email me. You can find my email on KSAT's website, but it's pretty easy. It's just kblake@ksat.com. I'd love to answer any questions anyone has.
Well, this is Gavin Cruz, the Mad Media team, signing off. Thank y'all.